Alrighty, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully it's working. Alright, a video, or remember, if you like these kind of videos, sub to the channel, like whatever, blah blah blah, comment. It doesn't cost you anything, it helps the channel. So a game theory video, so something that I get asked about is, why is Dragon Ball FighterZ the biggest dropped ball in the history of fighting games? And how Dragon Ball FighterZ should have been, right? How Dragon Ball FighterZ should have been. Like, this is definitely a game where sometimes you need a friend or a teacher or a director. Someone should have been telling the people making this game, like, hey, stick with that idea. What you're doing there work. That's the best fucking thing you're doing, dude. Keep at it, dude. That's the best thing you're doing. Just don't stop that, right? And it's so sad that they didn't have someone over their shoulder telling them that that's the best thing you're doing. And of course, again, besides fixing all the fundamental flaws of this game, is the best thing I always talk about this game is the whole fireball versus reflecting versus homing dashing mechanic kind of thing, right? The whole idea of this, because this idea cannot be in any other game besides this game, right? You know what I mean? You can't have Ryu fucking, you know what I mean, shooting fireballs, homing dashing through everything like this. This kind of shit can only be possible in Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? And that's why they should have gone farther with it, right? And the problem is even more amplified that they didn't go as far with this, because you don't have things like block damage working correctly, etc., right? So I want to show you, like, well, what I'm really getting at, right? So I picked 3 characters to really show you what they could have done with this. This is why this is the best thing in Dragon Ball FighterZ, and it should be more of the focus on the game, right? And you need characters, I've talked about in game theory videos, why you need characters that show off the game system well, so that there's a narrative that is being explained to the casual viewer, and you can watch the game through the lens of certain characters. That's why games like Super Turbo are so popular even to this day, because you see those 2 ideologies in Super Turbo of the old school player who likes Fireball, Dragon Punch traps with Sagat, very powerful, very simple, and then you see that newer school player who is fighting against that in Balrog, and he abuses the game system very well. That's why you need characters in this game that really abuse the idea of fireballs versus reflecting versus homing dashing, and really go the next step, right? So you have a character like Vegito, right? We already have an excuse that, you know, he doesn't really have any slow or fast low, right? So we have Vegito and we're like, you know, none of that is guaranteed, right? Of course, none of that is guaranteed, right? But let's look at what we have right here, right? So first of all these fireballs, that should be doing more block damage, right? This should be doing block damage, right? And I've also said for Vegito something as well is you would need to give this move an EX move as well that counts as a laser beam, so you can't reflect it, right? But the point is, what I'm going to get at here, and this is, I'm going to go through other characters, an example is, Vegito should be a character that has this, although he's weak with this, you know, high-low mix-up, you have to understand that even in old school Street Fighter 2, you can't block the whole time. It wasn't an air dashing game. You know, you weren't going high, low, whatever you're doing, right? And you know what? People still died in Street Fighter 2 because you can't fucking block forever, dude. Because you'll die from block damage, right? So if Vegito's just doing all this shit, right? You can't keep blocking that, dude, because you're going to die from block damage, right? This is doing legitimate block damage, okay? And of course, I'd say there should be an EX version of the move, period, that counts as a laser beam, so you can't reflect it. But, you know, that's getting into another subject. So then what's going on here, right? And of course, if this stuff was a little bit faster, I mean, look at how this move should work, right? You look at this and you're like, wow, okay, like, okay, this move should work better, but it's just so slow, blah, 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 blah. But at least if that was doing legitimate block damage, you can't be like, well, God, I can just block versus Vegito forever. So then you're going to be like, well, fuck, I got to get out of this. Then that's going to open up for more hits for that. So anyway, the point is, now the opponent versus Vegito has to use the game system more, right? I can't keep blocking all this Banshee Blast, split finger shot. I got to start trying to homie dash out of this more. I got to start trying to reflect out of this more. And when you start trying to reflect out of something more, when you start trying to homing dash out of something more, inevitably they're going to have to open themselves up for more mix-up. Because of course, again, remember, when you're reflecting, then you're using the idea of the game that reflecting takes no block damage whatsoever, right? So then you would add into the game that some moves should be unreflectable, right? So maybe say Vegito's, boom, his sword moves are unreflectable. So then if the guy wants to start reflecting more, he has to then be aware of some laser sword is going to go through him, right? Okay? Shit like this should be more scary, okay? There's no mix-up there, right? We already know Vegito has terrible mix-up like that, right? All his stagger, pressure, whatever, it's not good, right? You know, in the grand scheme of the game, right? You know what I mean? If you can just, if the high-low mix-up is bad, I should say, right? But the thing is, if you actually are taking block damage, that's Vegito's mix-up. Because now you have to start guessing, when do you want to reflect out of this? When do you want to homing dash out of this, etc., right? Do you get what I'm saying? And then if you add in an aspect of the game of, oh wow, now there's actually, every character has maybe an unreflectable move. It's like, well shit, I gotta watch out for laser sword shit, you know what I mean? We have a character like Cell, right? This is another great example of a move that should be better, right? Look at this move, I think it's +2, right? It's +2, right? Okay, it's actually plus in this game that's so frame data ridiculous, right? But it should be even more. Shit like this should be legitimate, right? And here's the thing, you're gonna be like, well, Clayton, that's fucking stupid. And of course, that's fucking stupid in every game that is not Dragon Ball FighterZ. And that is why Dragon Ball FighterZ is potentially amazing, because that is not possible in any other game. Do you get what I'm saying? That's not possible in any other game. So now you have a character like Cell, oh, this is one of Cell's main gimmicks. And you're like, okay, well, you know, that's like basically a true block stream, but you can reflect out of it. So it's not real. So then if you're like, oh, the guy wants to reflect out, oh, I just came on the other side to hit him. That's an automatic guessing game now that is not possible in any other game besides Dragon Ball FighterZ. That's how you're selling Dragon Ball FighterZ. You're like, dude, this kind of mix-up, that's not possible in Street Fighter, it's not possible in Guilty Gear, it's not possible in any other fighting game but our game. It's possible in Dragon Ball FighterZ. And people are like, wow, yeah, because this whole mechanic. And you're like, shit, that's something. You're like, oh, was this something I was going to try to reflect out of at that time because it's a fireball? Oh, I just went and I chopped his head off, dude, right? Right in the back. Karate chop, dude, right? A character like Krillin. You got shit like this, right? You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. That stuff is so fun, right, dude? You're like, boom. Oh my god, which side is it? I wanted to do the double cross up one, right? What am I doing? Oh, wait, what am I doing? Sorry. Whatever. I wanted to do the fireball cross up, blah, blah. But you get it. You know, I made bit. You know, that's a lot of crazy shit, right? And so then you could be like, wow, Krillin's this pressure. And of course, like I said, fundamentally, the game needs to change. You need to fix a lot of the frame data between being my turn, your turn. You need to buff up everyone's frame data right in the first place. Stop this Jimmy shit that's your turn. Your turn is when you pick a character, right? So then if you have a character like Krillin, what is one of his gimmicks? Obviously, it's this fireball shit. So then if the guy doesn't want to deal with that pressure, maybe Krillin's unreflectable move is, oh, the guy wanted to reflect out of it, boom. He got hit by Destructive Disc because he tried to reflect out of it, and then the fireball bounced off his head, and then he boom, boom, he would crapped his titties. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, you're like, Krillin is such a gimmick character because of that. It's like, wow, it's a guessing game. And it's like, yeah, dude, sometimes you have to guess it's a game. Imagine this. Imagine you have to guess in a game. Every character has different mix-ups, right? They have different kinds of fun things, and they are abusing the game system. Like I said, that's one of the biggest problems with this game, is not only that the fundamentals are messed up, but they didn't trust the best idea of this game enough, right? The best stuff in this game is the whole idea of fireballs versus reflecting and homing dashing, that tug of war. And of course it does exist to an extent in the game, but it doesn't exist enough because you have fundamental flaws in the game, and even the fundamental flaw of there's not real block damage in the game, you know what I mean? So it's just baby shit, you know what I mean? You need to be afraid of blocking. You already have an excuse that you're not giving. Not every character has a, you know, mashing duck little kick, you know what I mean, forever. So Vegito has an excuse. You have an excuse for Vegito. Vegito doesn't have a high-low mix-up that is fast like everyone else, even though it's an air dashing game. But you know what, dude? You know what Vegito does have? You're taking chunks of block damage all the time you block his shit. And you're going to have to try to guess eventually to reflect or homie dash out of, right? And of course, you know, in the grand scheme of things, this stuff does need to be slightly faster for what it is. And again, in Vegito's case, you would need to add an actual EX thing because you would want this to be at least somewhat legitimate. But the fact stands, dude, they should have had a director tapping them on the shoulder or a friend being like, you know what, you got, dude, you got something there, dude. We can't do that in Street Fighter. We can't do that in King of Fighters. We can't do that in Guilty Gear. But you know what? We can use this idea in Dragon Ball FighterZ. And no other game can do this. That's how you sell Dragon Ball Z, dude. That's how you make the game special. Anyway, remember, if you like these kind of videos, sub to the channel. It doesn't hurt. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Comment, it helps. The end.